Hi, this is Melanie from Hook to the Left, and today we're going to learn how to make this Santa hat. Or, if you prefer, you can make this winter hat instead. Both are made the same way, you just choose different colors. So let's go ahead and get started. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I know that you probably have recognized this particular hat pattern because it is one that I make every year, but I usually make it in a singular color, and I don't do two-tone. Now, the person that I learned to make this basic stitch pattern from is Make and Do Crew, so I'm going to go ahead and link them up above, as well as link the video down in my description below. But what I am going to teach you that is not taught in the pattern or in the tutorial is doing the two-tones. So you can have a different color brim, and of course the pom-pom, that I don't really need to teach you as much, but definitely the different color brim with the different color hat base. So so without further ado, let's go ahead and show you what you need to make this project. To make this pattern, you will want two different colors of a chunky or size 5 weight yarn. What I used for my winter hat, this one, I used Serenity Chunky, and I used white, I think this is just called white, Cloud Dancer. It's actually called Cloud Dancer. So I used Cloud Dancer, one skein of this, and then I used one skein of Glacier to make my winter hat. Which, you know, if you just have like a plain blue chunky with the white chunky, I think that would be just as pretty as a winter hat. Or even gray. I think gray would look really pretty with the white brims as well. And then for my Santa hat, I used my favorite yarn, Charisma. So for the red, I used red. I know, creative there, right? So I used one ball of red. And then I used one ball of, and I believe this is white, yep, of white. And that's in the Charisma yarn to make my Santa hat. Now, the other tools that I used, you will need an 8mm hook. So this is a Clover 8mm hook. I will link that down below. But yeah, you will want an 8mm hook. You will need a pair of scissors, which I've also linked these down below if you like them. These are nice and sharp, which is great for making the pom-pom. And then you will also need a good darning needle or yarn needle so that you can weave in your ends. I will link, these are my favorite because of the flexible eye and a thinner metal shaft. So I will link these down below as well. And finally, I use a Pom-Pom Maker, but you will want to use anything that you have available to make a pom-pom. This is just my preferred method. This is not my preferred Pom-Pom Maker because these actually have these little plastic pieces that fell off, so I will not have these linked down below. I would not recommend them. Eventually, I will be trying the Clover Pom-Pom Makers, but just so you know, this is the one I use for my hats to get these giant pom-poms here. And this is 3.5 inches in diameter. As an added bonus, I did also make this smaller one for a younger person, and used my smaller pom-pom maker. But I would recommend it. I made this slouchy because it's going to be her Santa hat, and you know, Santa's hat is a little slouchy, so it is a little bit longer. It's actually about the same length as the adult hat, but the brim is a little bit shorter. Now, what I used for this hat is Dollar Tree yarn. So it took just over one skein of the chunky fuchsia and less than one skein, almost a full skein. This is all that I have left of the cream. So you can still make this with Dollar Tree yarn. Because the Dollar Tree yarn is not a true chunky yarn, you get a little bit more of the gaps in between. but she lives in Florida, so it'll be okay. And of course it will still keep her head warm. So just so you know, you can also use Dollar Tree yarn for that. But let's go ahead and get started using the Charisma, the Loops and Threads Charisma yarn. And we're going to start chaining with the white. Okay, so let's go ahead. I had a little bit of a yarn bar situation here, but let's go ahead and start with a chain of 13 in the white. Loosen it up. So we want to keep a loose tension on this while we chain. 1, 2, 3. 12 and 13. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is get the end of our red. Okay, so let's go ahead and make another slip knot in the red. Hook it onto your hook, cinch it down, and pull it through the loop on the white. And now let's go ahead and chain 20. And make sure it's loose. 1, 2, 3. Okay, welcome back. So you have 13 total stitches chained in the white, and then you have 20 total stitches chained in the red. Now, as you work on this, it could be that these two get kind of twisted up in each other, so you just want to watch that and kind of work on untwisting it if that becomes the case. But let's go ahead, and since you've chained 20 here, we're going to chain 2 more. Okay, so we chained 2 more. We're going to yarn over. So that's a total of 22 chains in the red. We're going to yarn over, and then we're going to go into the 3rd chain from the hook, and you need to make sure you go into the back loop, and that's important when joining. So go ahead and double crochet, and then you just repeat your double crochet all the way to go to the end of the red, and I will meet back up with you there. Welcome back, and we're back. I have finished the double crochet that I needed to do on the red, and well, almost finished. I have reached the point where I have joined my red to my white in my chain. So when you take a look at it, so you see here that the lump right here is red, and we're going to go ahead and double crochet in that back lump, because that is actually the back lump of that chain, the red chain. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and double crochet into the back loop, not lump, but loop of that piece. Now we're going to drop the red yarn, and we're going to pick up our white. And now because this is red versus the white, I do not work this in across. I am going to feed this back in with a yarn needle later. It would be way too obvious if I worked it across with the white. So my loop is red. I'm yarning over with the white. I'm going to go into the back loop of the chain. Okay, so now I've got 1 red and 2 white loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through the 2 white loops, okay, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. I'm going to take this right here and then cinch the red a little tighter where I created this double crochet. And now I'm just going to continue on down, crocheting a double crochet into the back loop of each chain until I get to the end. So just go ahead and continue that on, and so you can see here where the 2 ends meet. Okay, So continue on and finish out the rest of your chain with the white, crocheting, doing a double crochet into the back loop of each chain, and I will meet up with you at the end. Okay, so we're back, and you've finished putting in the, I have finished putting in double crochet, 13 double crochets into each of the back loops of the chain, and I am ready to go ahead and start my next row. So the way that this particular hat works is you're going to work the hat as a rectangular cloth, and then you're going to sew it together and cinch the top together. So let's go ahead and do the second row, and then I'll talk to you about what that means on how many rows we need to have and where you need to end. So let's go ahead and chain 2 now, and then flip your work. Now we are going to go ahead and do double crochet into the back loop of this very first stitch. Normally we would skip this stitch if we're counting the chain as a stitch, but we're not. So let's go ahead and go right into that same stitch and then double crochet. Okay, and then that's what you're going to repeat all the way through to the end of the row, but I will meet up with you again right here where we do the color change so I can show you how that's done. Okay, well, we are back. I have finished, and I have gotten to a point where it looks like I would finish with my white and then continue, pick up the red and continue on with the red. However, that's not the case. This is where this is really important here, is you want to make sure you keep up with your stitch count. So you know that we're supposed to have 13 stitches of white in each row. Now remember, on this first section here, and I'm going to zoom you in a little bit, this first section here, this, and actually it's the same up at the top too, but your chain up, your chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So you've got these two, that's one stitch right there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, but I'm supposed to have 13 stitches. So where am I going to put my stitch? Well, you see the red stitch right here, and we can pull it out a little bit because it is attached to this and we can cinch it up later, but that is where you're going to do your 13th double crochet into the back, or the back loop double crochet. Okay, so that is your 13th stitch, and then you can cinch it back up, and then you drop your white and you start on the red. Now remember, on the red we need 20 total stitches. Okay, and this is just like you were doing in the chain. So there's your first stitch right there. So you want to, you've got the white on your hook, the white loop on your hook. You're going to yarn over with the red. You're going to go into the back loop of the red, yarn over, pull up a loop. So now you've got one white and 2 red loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the red and the white, and now you can tighten that up a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to repeat that, and we need 20 total stitches of the red. So we're going to repeat that down the row. We're going to do double crochet into the back loop all the way to the end. Don't forget to count your stitches, and remember, you need 20 stitches to finish the row. And I will meet up with you at the end. Welcome back. And now I have my 20 double crochet, back loop double crochet completed in this section of my hat. So the total number of stitches in your hat should come to 33 stitches each time, because you're not counting the chain 2 that you use to raise up your row, to raise up to the double height of the double crochet. That does not count as a stitch. So that being said, let's go ahead and start the next row, and I'm going to do this one more row with you, and then I'm going to let you repeat, because really you're just repeating the same row. I just want to do the join with you coming back this way so you can see that done. Done. All right, so let's go ahead and chain 2 and and flip your work. This is how it can get twisted up whenever flipping your work like that. I have it situated right now so it's not getting too twisted up yet, but I have had my work get twisted up by doing it this way. I've made a lot of these hats this season. Alright, so okay, so we're going to go ahead and double crochet into the back loop of this same stitch that you're coming out of. So we're going to, this very first stitch, so we're going to double crochet into the back loop of that stitch, because same thing going this way. That first chain 2 rising up your row does not count as a stitch. So yarn over, then double crochet into the back loop of the next stitch, and continue that on until we get to where the white starts, and we will do that portion together. Okay, so we're back, and I have finished 19 double crochet in the back loop of this row. Now, so it looks like I'm about to hit the white, but just like before, in the row before, you get that joining piece right there, and that's where you need to make your last stitch. So while it is going into a white stitch, you're going to make your last red stitch into that white stitch. So go ahead and yarn over, go into the under the back loop, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to cinch that up a little bit, make it a little bit tighter, and we're going to pick up our white. Alright, now here is where we're going to yarn over the white, then go into the back loop of the white. So now we have 2 white loops and a red loop on our hook. Then we yarn over, pull through the 2 white loops. And it's wanting to be a little finicky with me. There we go. Alright, and now we need to go yarn over and go through the white loop and the red loop, and then we can pull on that red loop, the red piece, there it is, and cinch that up a little bit so it's a little bit tighter. And now we just continue on to the end of the row, making 13 double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to let you continue on with that. Now that is all you need to do to make the entire cloth. You want to go back and forth until you make the cloth your desired length. Now what's the desired length? Okay, well that's the circumference around your head. So generally it's usually somewhere between 18 and 22 inches depending on who you're making this for. You may want to measure your own head, but here's one thing that you want to make certain you do whenever I got a knot. Okay, sorry about that. That was a true knot there that I had to make sure I got out before it ruined my work. And I got it all fixed. So now it's all good and will no longer distract me. But as to what I was saying is you want to make sure that you do use an odd number of rows. Why is that, Melanie? Well, because I need you to end your project on the white. So your last row that you use needs to, when you cinch it off, it needs to be in the white. And that's important because as we sew everything together and work our way up, we want to end up here because that's where we're going to cinch together our cloth for the top of the hat. So you always want to end on an odd numbered row, right? So, and what I mean by row is the double crochet rows. So right now there's 3 total rows. I know that we did a row of chains. That I'm not counting that as a true row. That's just to build the foundation of your cloth. The true row is the first double crochet, and then this is the second, and this is the third. So so you want to make sure you use an odd number of rows. So how many rows total do you need? Again, measure your head and get as close to that as you want. But just to let you know what I did on this one, I used, let me zoom out a little bit. So on this one right here and this one, so on my Santa hat and my winter hat, I used 27 rows. This one that I'm making right now, I'm making it 25 rows because my mother wanted to go ahead and make it just a little bit more snug. This one, which I'm making for my niece, has 23 rows in it. So just a heads up, that's what I am doing. So I'm going to be doing 25 rows, and then on the hats that I have made for me are 27 rows. So let's go ahead, continue on with your work, and we will meet back up after we get to the end of the cloth. Welcome back. Okay, so I am finished with my cloth here, and this is a total of 25 double crochet, back loop double crochet rows. As far as the length of this, I'm getting my handy little elephant tape measure. My little elephant dude. He's linked down below if you like him a lot. But anyway, then let me go ahead and tell you what the measurement of this is. And it comes out to 18 inches, or yeah, 18 inches in length and 15 inches in width. And I usually make kind of a wide brim, so you can always, instead of doing 13 stitches on this, you can cut that down to 10 stitches if you think that that would be better for you, but that is entirely up to you. And as far as the red goes, this is all I have left of my red yarn, so it's now a little scrap ball, which I will put in my baggie of other scrap balls. Although I think I need to start divvying it up, because most of these are the chunky, so I need to do like a bag of chunky, but this right here, this scrap ball is cotton, and it's worsted weight, so I think I might have to start splitting it up. Anyway, that is so that's all I had left of the red yarn, which you can see I've made a few hats because I've got all these reds left right here. And eventually I will make a scrap blanket when I have enough. Wouldn't that be nice? Like a chunky scrap blanket? That would be so cool. Anyway, so now we're ready to sew it in. Now when you cut your yarn, you want to make sure that you leave a very long tail. Now I always leave way too much of a tail because I would rather have too much of a tail than not enough of a tail. So I'd say probably somewhere between 24 and 36 inches would be fine. And then on this one, I would say no more than 24 inches, probably somewhere between 12 and 24 inches would be fine on this tail, the white tail. I do a little bit extra, especially on the white tail, because whatever I have excess that I cut off, I use as the tie for my pom-pom. This is how much I have left after making excuse me, making the cloth. So this is how much I have left, but once we finish with the pom-pom, especially if you make a big one like I do, then you usually end up with about the same amount left over in the white. So let's go ahead and sew these up. I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing here. So it's going to be a little bit harder to show on the white because I have white on white here. But I'm going to do my best to show you. When we get to the red, you'll see it a little bit better. And of course, I'll talk you through it as well. So what I like to do, you have this end piece here. This is the tail from where you started your chain. And then you have the tail, the long tail that you made whenever you fastened off your project. So what I like to do is I like to just go ahead and tie a knot there. Now don't make it too tight because you don't want it to look odd whenever you start feeding stuff in. So there you go. I will worry about feeding those ends in at the end. But for now, let's go ahead and start sewing our project together. Now, the one thing to remember, and this is why it was so important to start your chain, your first row into the back loop of your starting chain, because you want to see, and I'll show it on the red so you can see it a little bit better, but you want to see that V right there on both sides. So you want these to look the same. Okay, so that's just the theme on these hats or anything that you make like this. If you want a seamless join, you want to do back loop to back loop. So back loop is your theme. It's just something to remember. So let's go ahead and hold up this. So you want to go into the back loop of this stitch. Sorry. You want to go into the back loop of this stitch, and then under, well, under, not into, but under the back loop of the matching stitch on the other side, and pull this close. Now you want to be careful when you're cinching. You don't want to cinch, you want to cinch tight enough to close, but you don't want to cinch so tight that you end up pulling the seam and then it's no longer seamless. Alright, so again, back loop to back loop, and then cinch. Oops, I almost put a knot here because I pulled my yarn through. Okay, so cinch that close. Alright, now, and again, it's harder to see with the white, but back loop to back loop. And I want you to continue to do that all the way down until you get to this stitch right here, right before the red. So, and then we'll do the rest together. So I will meet up with you at that point. Okay, welcome back. I am at the end of the white. I just have one more stitch here, and that is going to go into the back loop of feels like I got extra stitches, so I'm just going to make up for that. I'm just going to do 2 stitches in one on this end. On this end I'm doing 2 stitches in one, and then this one I'm just catching up and making sure that everything is sewn together. Okay, so back loop to back loop again. Alright, so here we have a red. I'm gonna bring this down even more. So here you see where there's the red and then the white. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is start on the red, using the red. So same thing here, you have your tail and you have your long tail that you made from ending the project, and then your small tail from your chain. I'm just going to make another little knot here, and this just secures everything into place. I'm going to feed this small tail in a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and I am also, before I get started, going to go ahead and trim this off. Okay, so I trim that, and then I have this long, well, it's not super long, but I have this piece here. I'm going to use this for my pom-pom. Okay, so, and then I make another little knot here, and this is going to be a seam, where the brim is folded up, so it's never going to be seen. But usually if you don't make your knots too big, then you don't run into the problem of them being seen or being felt. Okay, so I just made a little knot there, so that just secures everything together over on that joint right there. And now I'm going to start sewing in the red. It's going to take a little bit longer because it's the longer piece, and there's a reason for that, because we're going to use it to cinch up the hat. So you see how I tied everything together? So actually I really don't even need, I really don't even need to feed it in at that little stitch, the join stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Since I made those knots, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to go ahead and join here in the red. Okay, so here's your V right here, right? So you're going to go into the middle of your V and under the back loop, and that's the same thing that you're going to do on this V here on the other side, and go under the back loop. Okay, and that's what you should have been doing in the white as well. So this should not be new, and I just made a knot for myself in my big old long tail. So pull that through again, just like on your white. You don't want it to be too tight because you don't want the seam to bow up. So you want to pull it tight enough so that it is cinched together well, but you don't want it so tight that it bows up your seam. Alright, so again we're going to do back loop to back loop. And sometimes, because you are using a thinner needle, just make sure that you don't go in between, in the middle of the stitch, and you actually go under the stitch. And there's been times when I've accidentally poked my needle through the middle of the stitch. So, right. Again, back loop to back loop. And you're going to continue this all the way to the end of the cloth. And I will meet up with you at the end. Okay, we are back. I'm at the end of sewing together that part of the red part of the cloth. I'm on my last stitch, so I'm in my back stitch to back stitch. Now what I like to do on this stitch is go ahead and start the knot. So I'm going to feed my thing, and it's a little bit, let me zoom out some so you can see that a little bit better. But so it's kind of looping underneath, and then this is a super long tail, people, so as I pull this, there we go. So now it's got a little bit of a knot there. It's not the best knot, but it's a little bit of a knot there. So now everything's done. I will feed in these. So what you want to do is feed these in. I feed the red into the red, the white into the white. Since these are such stark colors, they can't blend well together, so I do not feed white into red and vice versa. But that is how it looks when it's all sewn together. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to run this long tail here all the way around the top of this. So it's going to be like a drawstring, because you're going to be cinching it closed. So you're going to be looking for the holes under this last stitch that you made in the row, okay? And you're gonna just go back and forth into your cloth, and let me pull that through, and then I'm going to bring you closer so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. Okay. And this is part of the reason why I like to do a knot there at the end, because when you cinch this together, you're going to be pulling it tight, and I don't want it to pull on the seam when you pull it tight. Another way you can do that is you can kind of hold on to the seam while you're pulling the cinching the top of it tight together. Okay, so now we're going to go back in. We're going to find the stitch, go under. Yeah, and then you just weave your needle over and under as you go through the stitches. And you don't have to be perfect on this. You really don't. You just don't want to go too far down, because that's gonna move the top of your hat down and then make a big lump at the top. So you want to be as close to the edge as you can be. Okay, so we're here. We're gonna go in, out, and out, in, out. Okay, so just keep doing that until you get all the way around to the to your seam, and you can kind of tell where it's at because you got these tails hanging out here. But just continue all the way around the top of your hat until you get to that point, and then I will meet up with you there. Welcome back, and I'm feeding the last of this through. See, I'm back at my seam here. So I am just feeding the last of this through. Now what we're going to do next is, and you can go ahead and remove this real quick just so you don't lose it, but we're going to cinch up the top of this, and essentially what we've done is we've just made a drawstring for the top of this by feeding that long tail through. See, as I pull on it, it brings this together. Okay, and then you want to go as tight as you can without pulling on the seam. Okay, so you want to make sure the seam stays straight and doesn't pull up. Okay, but you do want to try your best to close this hole as much as possible, right? So pull on that, and then once that part is done, you get your needle, your yarn needle again, feed it through, and this is where I'm gonna kind of leave you to decide how you want to do this, but you're gonna start just kind of sewing this together a little bit more, okay, and then really closing up that hole that's up at the top. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then the other thing I want you to do is go ahead and make your pom-pom. I am going to use the pom-pom makers that I showed you at the beginning. So make your pom-pom for the top of the hat, however big or small that you want it. Mine's going to be a 3.5 inch diameter, and I'm going to use that pom-pom maker, but choose however you want to make your pom-pom. Make sure though, before you move away from this and snip your yarn, you tie a knot in the top up here. Okay, so that's very, very important. You want to make sure you tie a knot, and then you're going to tie, you're going to leave a little bit of a tail at the end, and then you're going to tie your pom-pom to it. So when you snip, make sure you leave at least about that long of a tail when you snip the red yarn and start working on your pom-pom. So when we come back, we're going to fasten the pom-pom, and I'm going to go ahead and leave you to it. But yeah, close that up a little bit. I'm pretty much done with that now. I just need to start knotting up here, and I'm going to be honest with you, I usually make at least 2 to 3 knots just to make sure that everything stays secure. So just a heads up, that's how I'm going to do that, and I will see you in just a minute whenever we tie on the pom-pom. Hi, welcome back. So here I am, and it's hard to see, but here is my giant pom-pom, which I am now going to feed through my through here. But before I do this, what we're looking at here with all of our little end pieces and everything, this is actually the inside of the hat. So before you feed your pom-pom through, since this is not going to be the exterior of the hat, you want to turn the hat, well, it's not inside out, it's actually right side out, but we've been working on the inside. So you want to go ahead and turn the hat right side out before you feed your pom-pom through, and then we'll turn it back inside out to finish feeding the pom-pom. So this is your hat without a pom-pom, which you could feed in the ends and not have the pom-pom on it, but since we're making a Santa hat here, I think we need to have this gigantic pom-pom, right? Okay, maybe you don't have to have a gigantic pom-pom, but I do. I like my big pom-poms. Okay, so all I do is I just put this through my yarn needle, and then I find the center up here, and I feed one side through, go under and pull my yarn through. Okay, so see, it's coming out the other end, it's so long. There's that part, which it's okay if you don't have it fully pulled through, because we will tighten it whenever we pull it back out. Alright, so then now we're going to go ahead and do the same with the other side. Oops, splitting my yarn here. Alright, we're going to pull this through. Now I want to make sure I go on the other side of the hole. Okay, so let's see here. The center is right about there, so I want to go on this side. Since that's on that side, I want to go on the other side of the hole. About equidistance, about even. Not so important that it has to be perfect. And then feed my yarn through. Okay, now you can go in here, you find your two white, you go in here, find your two white strands of yarn right here, and you can pull your pom-pom down. So you can look at it and see, okay, this, I like where this is at. This is pretty cool. I like this. Right? So you can see where, make sure you like it, and if you don't, then pull it out and do that again until you like the location of your pom. Alright, so now once you do get that location where you like it, you want to go ahead and turn the hat back inside out. Okay, and now we're just gonna tie this as tight as you possibly can. Make it nice and secure, and then tie a knot. And I always triple knot, because that's how I roll. And then I'm going to take these two here, these two strands, and then this red strand from where we cinched off the hat, and then I'm going to tie another triple knot, or tie another knot 3 times, I guess. So one, that is just the tie, so that's not the knot. Now we're going to do 3 knots. 1, 2, 3, and then that is really secure with it being triple knotted, so I'm going to go ahead and just snip close to the knots. This is inside your hat, so it's not a big deal if it's if you've got a little bit of string there. So I don't get too close to the knots, but close, and just do a little snip. There we go. So, and then you want to feed in your ends, and once you feed in your ends, you turn it back right side out. Double check your pom-pom. See, I got that little stray one right there I need to snip. You can't even see it. I already snipped it, but I had a stray one up there I need to snip. But check your pom-pom. Make sure it still looks as good as you like. Fluff it up a little bit. And then you just zoom out just a little bit. Fold up the brim of your... I haven't fed in my ends yet. I will here in a minute. But you just fold up the brim of your hat, and voila! You got your nice little Santa hat. Very, very festive. Isn't that awesome? I love this hat. This one's actually going to go to my mom. She requested one, but she's going to have her very own Santa hat. And I'm giving it to her. Today is actually Thanksgiving when I'm wrapping this up. So I'm going to be giving it to her today so she can have it for December. And I will meet you, once I feed this in, I will meet you back in just a minute. Welcome back, and here we are with our brand new Santa hats, or winter hat if that's what you chose to make. And if you guys really like this kind of content, or really liked this particular video, then don't forget to hit that like button, and while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and the bell so that you're reminded each time I put out a brand new video. Also, don't forget, every Saturday I do a nice little live stream at 11 a.m. So feel free to join us. It's a great way for all of us to get to know each other better in this yarny community on YouTube, which is amazing. And then on Saturday nights, I do another live with my girls, the Yarn Hookers. So don't forget about that. Make sure that you join us for that as well. But until next time, again, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate each and every one of you. You guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye. Mwah.